She won't remember the texts, the compliments, or how hard you tried. She'll remember the silence that unsettled her and the presence she couldn't replace. What makes one man fade while another lives rent-free in her mind? It isn't charm, it's control. Stay with me, because by the end of this, you'll understand how to leave a psychological mark so deep it follows her long after you're gone. 1. Stop chasing attention, start creating psychological weight. Most men lose the moment they start chasing, and they don't even realize it. The instant you pursue attention, explain yourself, or try to be chosen, your value collapses in her subconscious. Attention begged for has no weight. It's noise, and noise is easy to forget. Psychological weight is different. It isn't loud. It doesn't announce itself. It presses on the mind quietly and refuses to leave. When a man has weight, his presence feels grounded, intentional, and scarce. His absence is felt more than another man's effort. That is the shift you must make, away from chasing reactions and toward creating impact. Chasing is rooted in fear. Fear of losing her interest, fear of being replaced, fear of silence. That fear leaks into your behavior. You respond too fast. You over-clarify your intentions. You try to smooth every emotional ripple. And in doing so, you remove all tension. Without tension, there is no intrigue. Without intrigue, there is nothing for her mind to hold on to. When you stop chasing, something unsettling happens in her perception. The rhythm breaks. She no longer feels in control of the emotional exchange. Your attention is no longer guaranteed, and that uncertainty forces her mind to engage, not because you demanded it, but because you removed predictability. The human mind obsesses over what it cannot immediately resolve. Creating psychological weight means your energy has gravity. When you speak, it lands. When you leave, it echoes. You do not rush to fill silence because silence works for you. You do not compete for space because you already occupy it. This is not about being cold or dismissive. It is about being internally anchored. A man who is anchored does not chase waves. He lets them crash into him. The moment you stop trying to be liked, you become felt. You no longer perform for approval. You move at your own pace. You give attention deliberately, not reflexively. That restraint sends a powerful signal. Your energy is valuable, and access to it is earned, not assumed. Her subconscious immediately notices this, even if she cannot articulate it. Psychological weight is built through contrast, presence followed by absence, engagement followed by silence. You show her that being around you feels different. Then you remove that feeling without explanation. Her mind will try to recreate it. That is where you begin to live inside her thoughts, not as a memory, but as an unresolved experience. Most men think they need to do more talking, more reassurance, more effort. In reality, the man who leaves a mark does less, but every move carries intention. He understands that energy given too freely loses value, and energy withheld strategically gains power.
Stop chasing attention and notice what changes. Notice how silence becomes uncomfortable for her instead of you. Notice how your absence creates questions instead of relief. That is psychological weight forming. And once it's there, you no longer need to convince, impress, or pursue. The pull happens on its own. Niceness is the fastest way to become invisible. Not because kindness is weak, but because approval-seeking drains your presence of all tension. The moment your behavior starts orbiting around being liked, understood, or chosen, you silently give away your power. And once that power is gone, attraction collapses into familiarity, comfort, and emotional neutrality. Nothing sticks there. Nothing lingers. Validation-seeking is subtle. It hides behind politeness, consistency, and good intentions. It shows up when you reply too fast, explain too much, apologize for taking space, or rush to smooth over silence. Every time you do that, you send one clear signal. Your energy is always available, always predictable, always negotiable. The mind doesn't attach deeply to what it can easily access. Scarcity creates value, rarity creates focus, and focus is what turns attention into obsession. Here's the uncomfortable truth most men avoid. The more you try to reassure her, the less she feels you. When you constantly check in, you remove mystery. When you overexplain, you remove depth. When you seek approval, you place her above you emotionally. That imbalance doesn't create desire, it creates safety. And safety, without edge, puts you in the category of nice to have, not hard to forget. The shift begins the moment you stop needing her reaction. You don't need her to validate your worth, your time, or your choices. You don't rush to reply just to prove interest. You don't explain why you were busy, you simply were. That quiet certainty forces her subconscious to recalibrate. Suddenly, your absence carries weight. Your silence feels intentional. And when attention returns, it lands harder because it's no longer guaranteed. This isn't about being cold or rude, it's about emotional self-respect. You can be calm without being accommodating. You can be interested without being eager. When something doesn't sit right, you don't argue or plead, you pull back. That restraint does more than any explanation ever could. It introduces tension, and tension is the gateway to psychological engagement. Notice what happens when you stop chasing reassurance. Conversations slow down. Your words become fewer but heavier. She starts filling the gaps you used to fill for her. Her mind starts working where yours used to overwork. That reversal is critical. The moment she begins wondering instead of being reassured, you've shifted the dynamic from comfort to curiosity. Most men are afraid of this because it feels like losing control. In reality, it's the opposite. The need for validation is the real weakness. When you no longer require constant feedback, you become grounded. When you're grounded, your presence stabilizes the emotional field around you, and that stability, combined with restraint, creates an effect that can't be faked. You don't announce this change, you embody it. Fewer words, slower responses, no emotional chasing, no explaining your worth. The result isn't distance, it's depth. Because when validation disappears, what remains is something far more powerful, a presence that doesn't ask to be felt, but is.
The moment you stop being constantly available is the moment something inside her starts paying attention. Absence, when done with intention, creates a tension that words never can. Most men misunderstand this. They think pulling away means disappearing out of fear or playing games. That's not what this is. This is about restraint. It's about knowing when not to show up, when not to respond, when to let silence do the work your explanations never could. Here's the truth most people avoid. Emotional attachment doesn't grow in comfort, it grows in contrast. When your presence is constant, predictable, and easily accessible, it blends into the background. There's no pressure, no weight, no reason for the mind to linger. But when your energy comes and goes with calm certainty, her subconscious starts reaching for it. Not because you asked her to, but because the pattern changed. Controlled absence works because the human mind hates unfinished experiences. When you're there during moments of connection, focused, grounded, fully present, and then you withdraw, without drama, without apology, without explanation, you leave an open loop. That loop doesn't close on its own. Her mind keeps replaying the last interaction, searching for meaning, filling the silence with imagination. That's where tension is born. The mistake is thinking you need to announce your distance. You don't. Explaining kills the effect. When you say why you're busy, why you need space, or when you'll be back, you remove uncertainty. And uncertainty is the engine. Real control is quiet. You simply shift your availability. You respond slower. You initiate less. You let her feel the difference instead of telling her about it. What happens next is subtle but powerful. She starts noticing your absence emotionally, not logically. There's no clear reason to blame, no conflict to resolve, just a feeling that something is missing. That feeling turns inward. She wonders what changed. She revisits conversations. She questions her position, not because you manipulated her, but because you stopped overgiving and allowed space to exist. This tension isn't anxiety or fear, it's anticipation. It's the same pull people feel towards something rare and undefined. When your presence is no longer guaranteed, it gains value. When your attention isn't always available, it becomes significant. You're no longer part of the noise, you're a signal. The key is consistency in your calm. You don't pull away emotionally when things go wrong. You don't disappear out of insecurity. You stay grounded. When you return, you're the same composed presence as before. No coldness, no punishment, just continuity. That stability paired with selective absence creates depth. It tells her without words that you are centered in yourself. Over time, this changes how she experiences you. Your presence feels heavier, your silence feels louder, and when you do show up, it lands. She doesn't just notice you, she feels you. That's the mark. Not something forced, not something chased, something earned through restraint, timing, and the confidence to let space speak for you. Controlled absence isn't about disappearing. It's about trusting that what you bring has weight and allowing the mind to discover that on its own. The moment you stop trying to be noticed is the moment you become impossible to ignore. Most men think presence comes from talking more, explaining more, doing more. It doesn't. Real presence is felt before a word is spoken. It enters the room ahead of you and lingers after you leave. And the reason it works so deeply is simple. Stillness unsettles people who are used to noise.
Presence begins with how you occupy space. When you move too fast, fidget, scan for approval, or rush to fill silence, you signal inner chaos. Calm bodies communicate calm minds. Walk slower than everyone else. Sit as if you belong there. Let your shoulders relax, your chest open, your breath deepen. When you're grounded in your body, others unconsciously adjust to you. They lean in, they listen, they feel you without knowing why. Stillness is not emptiness, it's compression. When you stop reacting instantly, your energy condenses. Silence becomes heavy. A pause after she speaks does more than a clever reply ever could. It tells her you are processing, not performing. That delay forces her mind to stay engaged, wondering what you'll say next. Most men rush to respond because they fear losing the momentum. You let the moment come to you. The way you speak either dissolves or concentrates authority. Slow your speech slightly. Lower your tone just enough to make people lean forward. Pause mid-sentence occasionally, not for effect, but because you're comfortable owning silence. That rhythm signals emotional control. It tells her you're not chasing her reaction, you're grounded in yourself. Your body language must agree with your words. Leaning back instead of forward changes the entire dynamic. It subtly places her in motion and you at rest. Stillness invites pursuit. Constant movement invites dismissal. Let your hands rest. Stop adjusting your clothes, your phone, your posture. Each unnecessary movement leaks power. In moments of tension, this is where stillness becomes undeniable authority. When emotions rise, you do not match them. You slow down even more. You listen. You respond with fewer words, not more. That contrast triggers a deep sense of safety and attraction at the same time. It says, I can hold this. Most men try to win arguments. You dissolve them by refusing to escalate. This is not about acting dominant. It's about being centered. When you are fully present, you don't need to convince anyone of anything. Your calm becomes the loudest thing in the room. And once someone feels that kind of presence, they never forget it. They may forget what you said, but they will remember how your stillness made them feel smaller, steadier, and strangely drawn in. That's authority without force, and it stays with her long after you're gone. Predictability is comfort, and comfort kills desire faster than rejection ever could.
The moment she knows exactly how you'll respond, when you'll show up and what you'll say, her nervous system relaxes, and when it relaxes too much, it stops paying attention. What keeps the mind alert is contrast, not chaos, not drama, contrast that feels intentional, grounded, controlled. Unpredictability without chaos begins with one principle. Your energy is not guaranteed. That doesn't mean you become cold or inconsistent for the sake of it. It means you stop running on a fixed emotional schedule that anyone can memorize. One day you're fully present, focused, attentive, locked in. The next, you're quieter, more reserved, harder to read. Nothing is wrong. Nothing needs explaining. That subtle shift forces her mind to stay engaged because the human brain is wired to seek patterns, and when a pattern almost forms but never fully locks in, obsession starts.
Most men confuse unpredictability with instability. They think it means disappearing emotionally, acting erratic, or creating unnecessary tension. That's not power. That's insecurity leaking out. Controlled unpredictability is calm. It's silent. It comes from self-possession. You don't announce your plans. You don't over-clarify your intentions. You don't reassure her every time the energy shifts. You allow space. And in that space, her mind begins to fill in the blanks. Here's where it gets interesting. When your behavior isn't fully predictable, she can't mentally file you away. You don't become the nice guy, the reliable one, or the emotional sponge. You remain unresolved. And unresolved experiences don't fade, they loop. She replays conversations, rereads moments, and searches for meaning that was never handed to her directly, not because you confused her, but because you didn't overfeed her certainty. Unpredictability also lives in emotional range. If you're always serious, introduce lightness without warning. If you're usually playful, shift into stillness and depth. Let her discover new sides of you gradually, not all at once. Familiarity breeds boredom when it's rushed. Depth becomes addictive when it's revealed in layers. Each layer creates curiosity about the next. And understand this clearly. You are not trying to destabilize her. You're interrupting emotional autopilot. Most people live on emotional scripts. They expect men to pursue consistently, explain themselves endlessly, and regulate women's emotions for them. When you calmly step outside that script, you become memorable. Not loud, not dramatic, just different enough to stand apart. There will be moments when she feels slightly off balance, not unsafe, not anxious, just aware. Aware that she can't fully predict you. Aware that your presence isn't something she can summon on demand. That awareness sharpens attraction. Desire thrives in uncertainty, not because uncertainty is painful, but because it keeps the senses awake. The key is intention. Every shift in your energy must come from alignment, not manipulation. You pull back because you choose to, not because you're seeking a reaction. You engage deeply because you want to, not because you're afraid of losing her. That internal independence is what makes unpredictability powerful instead of toxic. When your actions are grounded but not routine, calm but not static, present but not guaranteed, you stop being a character in her day and start becoming a question in her mind. And questions linger far longer than answers ever do. Comfort is forgettable. It fades the moment something louder walks into her life. What stays is the moment her emotions were shaken, rearranged, and left unresolved. If you want to be remembered, you must stop trying to make her feel safe all the time and start making her feel something real. Impact is what the mind records. Comfort is what it erases. Most men aim to be liked. They smooth every edge, avoid tension, and rush to reassure. That may win approval, but approval has no gravity. The nervous system doesn't bond to calm predictability. It bonds to contrast. Think about the moments that changed you. They weren't easy. They were intense, confusing, emotionally charged. That's the same mechanism at work here. Emotional impact is created when you interrupt her internal pattern, not when you maintain it. You do that by touching depth without rushing to resolve it. Ask questions that no one else dares to ask. Not surface-level curiosity, but questions that make her pause before answering. Questions that reach into memory, fear, desire, and loss.